folks, and welcome to another episode of the Snowy's Camping Show. You are here with Ben and Lauren as usual. Before we get into today's show, wherever you're listening to your podcast, don't forget to subscribe. And if you haven't already, jump onto our Facebook group, the Snowy's Camping Show, where you can get in on all the conversations that we have happening. So today, Ben, we have a really special guest with us.
Yeah.
We are chatting to Anthony from Ozpig, celebrating 15 years since the first pig has come into creation. So, Anthony, tell us a bit about yourself and your background, mate.
Hey guys, how are you?
Yeah, good.
All good.
Yeah, well, a bit about me and a bit about the company. So, I'm a boiler maker by trade, steel worker. So, naturally fell into steel work and working with the company. And a bit about the brand. It was a family business. First started by my mother and father 15 years ago. Would have been this Gympie Muster, unfortunately cancelled due to COVID again. On us, so it's a bit sad, but so that's a bit about us.
And your family was also into a lot of food and stuff, so I guess a boiler maker, and then the Ozpig kind of came together and is kind of led the way.
Yeah, so how the pig sort of came about is our family had cafes and coffee shops. We grew up in central Queensland, and when my folks went to retire, Dad being a bit of a jack of all trades, couldn't go and buy a caravan, went and built his own caravan, and away they went. And eventually they got to the Murray, and they were on the Murray for about 6 months, and soon figured out that you couldn't have a fire on the ground with all the open fire regulations and all that sort of stuff. And coming from Mount Isa, they grew up in Mount Isa, country kids, fire and cooking, that's camping and outdoors. So, soon came about an idea and a concept that, where they could have a fire that was up off the ground, safe and contained with a solid bottom and that spark roaster on top of the chimney. And then, the other side of that, small chimney, so it was conserving the fuel, so we weren't burning through a lot of fuel if you were travelling. Sort of came about, and like any good invention, it was that, built it for themselves and continued travelling, and every place they went to was like, oh, what's that? Where do I get one of those sort of things? So, we were lucky that we had the foresights to do all the trademarks and patents and, and get all of that done early on in the piece.
So tell us a bit about the prototype model, because obviously if they're on the road and they're on the Murray, how do you build a fire pit, portable fire pit?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Good friendship network around the country.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
If anyone had met my parents, they would have known that very lovely people. Dad had a larger than life personality, so he had friends everywhere, basically. And he was that that jack of all trades, and just sort of pulled together a million little ideas that he'd seen around and what he'd thought. And of course, our original one was concepted around a 9 kilo gas bottle, so it wasn't hard to find the original one. And we sort of just fine tuned it into a portable version that was safe. So the whole concept was removable legs that fit inside the belly, chimney pieces that remove and fit inside the belly that will pack up into a carry bag. So it's easy enough to take away with you, and it packs down in the size of a milk crate, and you can put it in the back of your caravan, and away you go. Did we go through about 6 or 7 different prototypes to start with? We had, flipping lids and, all sorts of different ports and all that sort of stuff. So, getting it down to the real basics of what the product needed and how to use it. And that's where we sort of got to that, making sure that we had the open door and then the open top. So open door means you direct all the heat outwards instead of losing it out to the top.
Yep.
You direct it out to the front, so that's going to keep your, under your awning or whatever, that's going to keep you warm rather than losing it out to the top. And it means you can put it underneath an awning. And then that full open top means you can take the barbecue plate off and then interchange it with any sort of frying pan, camp oven, wok, pot, char grill, rotisserie, whatever you want it. So it is very versatile.
Did they always look like a pig?
Yeah. And that's where the name comes from.
Yeah. So from this, was there one that looked more like a pig than the others, or is like?
I think it was, and this, the name came from Mum. So it was, she always seen it as the pig. 4 little legs, little nose on the front of it, and the barbecue plate through the ears, and the chimney was the tail. So that was her thing, and she was so proud of it. And being their baby that they brought into life, Ozpig was their thing.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So going back to the gas bottle, was there, as far as you know, any sort of motivation behind specifically choosing that, or was it just something that was lying around and it was made of metal and, give it a crack?
Well, the thing with the gas bottle is it's press shape. So it's there to load for pressure. So where other people are using, just rolled cylinder steel or square shapes, they don't have any structure pressed into them. So when you get heat, heating up and cooling down, and if you heat it up and cool it down really fast, then structures tend to twist, buckle, and sort of warp.
Okay.
So with you can see in the big pig here, you can see that dome edge in the standard Ozpig. That's, the dome edge where the front is. That's our structure. So that's our rigidity of it. Right? And then, alongside with that, everything that we, put alongside it is fully robot welded and seam welded in.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no movement. Everything's very strong and locked in and rigid. And that's what you want when you're talking 700, 500 degrees for 8 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah, right.
And that's why our products, go on 15 years, you can still see the originals kicking around Australia today, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Good one. So when you obviously the first ones were made by your parents when they're traveling around.
So the first prototype was we've had a manufacturing facility ever since day one. So since the first Ozpig was sold commercially at the Gympie Muster in 2006. We had a facility that made them from
when
scratch.
You say facility, is that your shed in your backyard?
No. Proper factory. So we work from flat pattern steel. We punch shape into it. We punch structure. We punch holes out. We don't recycle gas bottles or anything like that. Mm-hmm. Everything that you get is brand new form, press built for the product.
Mm-hmm. So I suppose if your parents had owned a fair few businesses in their time, they were sort of going into it ready with a fair, idea of their business model already and sort of how to kick it off properly from the beginning, maybe?
I think they had hopes, like any business owner does have hopes that maybe one day we're on it. We think we're on something special here, but for them, it was only ever supposed to be petrol money for them to continue retirement.
Yeah, right.
So, they travelled around Australia doing all the caravan and camping shows, around Australia. And it was like, well, this is a great way for us to, travel around Australia for the rest of our life. And we can do some shows and earn some pocket money as we go, basically.
Yeah, beautiful.
And then, it sort of grew from there. We come in, 15 years later, our retail network's 300 in Australia. We distribute in New Zealand, Japan, UK, and in Europe, and some sections in Europe as well. So did we know that 15 years ago or did we expect that? No, not at all.
It's great to see it go that wide around the world. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Was there a particular challenge with the design over the years that I can only recall? Well, there's probably two main changes that I can recall in probably the last 10 years of knowing about Ozpig, and that was once you made a change to the flue at the back where the chimney come out, and then you introduced the big pig. But a lot of people might look at it and think, oh, it's just a cylinder with some stuff welded on it. But what was there, like, is there one sort of particular element that was a real sticking point or required a lot more research than others to actually make it work or function as you wanted it to?
Yeah. So, we have the accessory line that goes with each of the products. So, how complicated that can be to make sure that all of the accessories work together to create like an ultimate cooking station. So like the heat bead basket for the Series 2 that fits in through the drip tray so the char grill can fit on top, and then the rotisserie can go over the top so that, any fat and stuff's channeled back into the Ozpig. So the accessory side of things, they can be a little bit more complicated to make sure we can get them all to work, and especially when you're working with a product that's been around for 10 years already that wasn't really designed for it. So coming up with those creative solutions to get there was always good. When it comes to product, the Ozpig, in essence, it hasn't changed a lot from day one. Like you said, we changed the base of the chimney on the Series 2. And then we made a more recent update to the Series 2 with included accessories, longer extension legs because, no more bending over, and don't know why we didn't do that sooner, sort of thing. And a mesh door so that people can close the door on the Ozpig. And, the one big thing that we've always tried to get out to people is, the Ozpig is not a negative pressure stove, so it is designed to leave the door open, so you can get the heat that comes out of the front door to keep you warm and enjoy at the end of the day. Like closing the door, you lose all the fire.
Yeah.
So, what's the point? So, but on the flip side of that, we've got national parks and all that sort of stuff. So we want to make sure that we have that ability, and the mesh door with the vented door adjuster then gets us into that fully enclosed environment. And that mesh that we put on there is what they use for ember attacks on houses. So, anything that can fall out is too small to light fire.
Right.
So there, the tweaks that we've done on the Ozpig unit. And then, we've got, the Big Pig now and the smoker. So they're, full designs from the ground up.
Yep.
The Big Pig here, it was sort of like a passion project that we've been working on for like the last 6 years at the Gympie Muster, just because of how cold it gets up there. We're talking like 1 degree, -1 some nights, and we've got 20 of us trying to huddle around.
Yeah.
And I was thinking we were getting pretty close, sort of thing. So, the Big Pig, that's where the Big Pig comes from. And we sort of took all the feedback, from our customers from the last, sort of 13, 15 years that we've had, and sort of added in a couple of extra features and benefits that they were really looking for in our product.
There's probably some of your new customer base. I think you said UK was one of your, so they're probably sitting there going 0 degrees -1. That's still.
Mate, what are you talking about?
I haven't put my jumper on yet.
Yeah, you've got blue toes when it gets 0 degrees here.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've got one customer on our Ozpig lovers group, and she gets up early in the morning in summer, and it's like 4 degrees or something like that.
What?
In Scotland, and she posts it up there, and she's out there cooking it like, oh wow.
You mentioned
from Queensland. That's a big change.
You mentioned just before, Anthony, about all the feedback that you've had from your customers over the years. I did want to bring up your Ozpig Lovers Facebook group, because it is quite unusual for brands these days to have such direct and immediate interaction with customers, especially in such a public way like a Facebook group. And I know you yourself are quite active within that group. What sort of, I guess, drove the decision to do that? Because it's positive, but it can also leave you exposed in a lot of ways as well, can't it? So yeah, talk to us about a bit more about that.
Yeah, well, the Ozpig Lovers Group was, created by customers.
Okay.
To be honest, and good friends of ours. Created to start with, and we've always been a big part of it. And the whole idea of the Lovers Group was a place for our customers to share and learn from each other. A lot of people don't want to hear just from brands and companies telling them what to do and how to do it. They really want to hear from other people and, engage with other people that are doing similar stuff to them. And, that was the whole idea for the Lovers Group. I try not to be too heavily invested in it. You've got to monitor it because it can get unruly at times and stuff like that. But that's the only intervention that we like to have into it. The rest is just about our customers, getting together and showing their cooking. And there's a lot of hints and tips for the new customers when they come on board. And, when it comes to cooking, there's, a lot of finesse and a lot of training. And it depends on your skill level and then your knowledge on the product as to how much information you need and where you need to engage with that information. So having a community of, I think it's nearly 12,000 there now, there's always someone on your level doing something similar, and there's always someone a little bit above you that can help you come along and bring your experience or bring your knowledge base up a little bit, and give you that next idea on what to do with your product as well.
Has anything come out of that group that's sort of affected choices that you make as a business at all, like in terms of design or how you run things or anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. You know what I mean? Like if you go back 8+ years, we were a camping product only. So people bought them, they stuck them in their sheds when they weren't using them, and then took them away with them. Whereas now we've sort of seen that shift in the last 8 years to people have got them set up all the time on their back patio. And it's on a weekend away. They're lighting a fire and they're sitting around the fire with the family. They're cooking on it. Yeah, that's a bonus. But a lot of times it's sitting by the fire and gathering and just enjoying that. Mm-hmm. And we've seen the big shift to a semi-home based product. Fantastic to take away because of all the safety features when you go away and the versatility. But, it's an all-round unit. Sit it on the back patio and use it all the way around. So that really, seeing how our customers have evolved really gives us the evolution of where we should be going with our accessory range and our product range and where we'll go in the future with our products as well.
Is there a single sort of customer story that stands out as the best, like the one that you go with, I don't know, you saw an Ozpig set up in some crazy out there place or something, like one that you like to tell over and over? Just somewhere you never thought you'd see your product?
There's heaps. There's heaps. And having that group, you see them one a week, you're going like, what?
Yeah, righto.
Yeah. How did you get it there? Or what's going on there? You always get those, which is fantastic. Yeah. The biggest, success story that we've got, and anyone that knows Ozpig is Brad Lum. And, Brad Lum's been with us for, the best part of a decade, and he was a customer. Loved the product, engaged with us, and, the cooking that he does on it, he's a good friend of ours now, and we're about to catch up with him for the Gympie Muster that we're doing a bit of a redo camp just so that we don't miss out.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest things that, that's come, customer related, like we had one the other day where it was, he wrote in just saying thank you. His wife gave it to him 8 years ago, and it had been everywhere. And it was from Alice Springs to South Australia to Ayers Rock, to the East Coast to the West Coast. It's 8 years old and still going, and he was so happy that, that's the best present his wife ever bought him.
That's awesome.
And now he wants a big pig, and, he wants to now learn how to smoke and all of that. So, they're the good ones.
Yeah, that must make you feel great.
It does. Yeah. It does. And, that's why we sort of get up every day and, keep pushing what we're doing and, keep our values the way they are, build that quality product, make sure we keep delivering on, what we promise people.
Yeah, totally. On that note, let's sort of get into offshore versus Australian manufacturing, because obviously that's a really hot topic at the moment, and it is really topical for a lot of Australian brands as well. What is your perspective on that from Ozpig?
Okay, yeah, I think there's a time and place for both, and I really, it's a hard one. Like we're an offshore manufacturer for sure. I'm a boiler maker by trade. So I'd love to produce my product in this country, but unfortunately just not feasible in the way that we do business, basically. Like our standard Ozpig is that 370 price point, which is, on the top end of the town for its unit. And there's a lot of Me Too products that are cheaper than our product. But if we were to build that here in Australia, that'd retail for about $600. And for some people, that puts them out of the market for the products. And, that's fair enough. So it's, we have a retail network, like I was saying before, of 300 plus around Australia. We can make it here and sell it direct to the customer for, similar to the price point that we have. But then we couldn't on-sell our product to retailers to sell. So we would lose that 300 plus network. That's, a lot of them, just like Snowies and all of our independents that are around Australia, support local business, local staff in that community. Most of them are independently owned. So everything stays in that community as well. So
it also gives the customer an outlet to see it, right? Like they can see it in a retail shop, which is a benefit for the customer.
Definitely, like we can travel around and do trade shows and all of that sort of stuff. And like I'm saying, we could do this, but it's not how we like to do business. This is how we see ourselves sitting into the greater economy is we produce a product that is commercially viable at a price point so the customer can enjoy it. And we make sure that the quality is right and that we can then get it through to a network that then supports us as well, that, supporting the local Australian jobs and so on. So, the big thing I think is people have the perception that offshore has to be cheap quality. And that's for me is a big no-no. That all comes down to the brand and what the brand stands for. I'm a boiler maker by trade, so, steel work and product and design is, what I live for and why we do our business. So you really got to look at the brands behind the products and then the price points of what's going on. And, there's some brands that are corporate owned and they're looking at the dollar figure and competition and competing and always being cheaper. And factories, it doesn't matter if you're here in Australia or overseas, you can always make a product cheaper and you can always compete. But the only thing that suffers is the product. There's not a simpler way of magically making things more competitive or more cheaper. You have to reduce costs in some areas. So all that happens is the product ends up suffering and then the end consumer experience ends up suffering as well. So just because we're buying cheap products out of China or out of anywhere in Southeast Asia doesn't mean offshore manufacturing as a whole is cheap. It's all about what the brand that's selling that product holds true. The quality and the consistency of what they want to offer to the end consumer at the end of the day.
So we just want to touch a little bit on the quality control with being made overseas. I think a lot of people might think with products that come from overseas, the first time a lot of manufacturers, and this is the truth with a lot of them, first time they see the product is when it rolls up in their warehouse all packed up in boxes, and they're hoping that everything that's inside those boxes is made to the specs they've sent off. We've chatted to you a little bit prior to this, and I love the way you described your quality control process despite being made overseas. that's the difference in the Ozpig brand, in that your quality control is there. Can you elaborate on
that?
Yeah,
like I said, I'm a boilermaker, so we build them, we design them, we break them, we know how to build them. So, I spend a lot of time myself in our factories, and that's what I pride our product on being, that it has the QC and quality control of what would be made here at the end of the day. So I go over there and show them how to build it, and then I also show them how to QC it. So, prior to COVID, 90% of the products that came through, had my fingerprints on them somewhere from my QC check, or me out there showing them how to build it, or, going through that QC process and picking that product up and checking it and then sticking it in the box before it comes. I think the biggest problem with, some of the brands is, they're a Me Too product, and it's like, let's go to China and just find something and let the factory, tell me what I need. We're totally opposite. We design, we develop, we build, and then we go show people how to make it to the standard that we want.
I've always said that good stuff does come from overseas.
Yeah.
The quality of it is dependent on exactly what you've described there, the quality control of the actual company, because if the factory is allowed to just pump out whatever they want, then they will. It's a business at the end of the day, isn't it? And if they can do that and turn it into cash, they will. But if the company's
there's like a big difference taking something that they've made and putting your sticker on it versus telling them to make what you want them to make. Yeah.
And that makes it really hard for us, smaller brands that are, we're a family brand at the end of the day, and we want to produce good products. And, you get these bigger companies that, go and do offshore manufacturing, and the only reason they do it is to be the cheapest in the marketplace, you know what I mean? And just to follow what everyone else is doing. And then, that onwash gets across to anyone that produces offshore. And, which is sad. It's frustrating for small businesses like ours.
Must be a challenge with volumes. Those big guys come in and they're probably getting 4 or 5, I don't know how many times more sort of numbers through the factory, into the factory. That's a large amount of cash, but a smaller company that has got a high quality control has a smaller amount of products going through at a higher standard. So that factories are going to look at that as being not as profitable potentially. So is that a challenge for you?
Not really for us. No? We're longevity.
Okay.
So a lot of, like anything, product fads come and go, and a lot of manufacturers see through that, you're going to come and buy a large volume now, but this product's going to be sold out and gone and non-existent in 2 years' time.
Yep.
So we've been doing this for 15 years and we want to do this for another 50 years. So this is where we have really good relationships. And, going into a factory and working in a factory and getting your hands dirty with a grinder, with a welder, you get respect and then you get a partnership, a deeper partnership, so that they believe in what you're trying to deliver at the same time as well. If you just go in a suit and tie and say, I want that at the cheapest price, they'll give you that. And that's what you do.
Do you enjoy getting your hands dirty still, getting on the tools?
I love it. You know what I mean? That's what we do. Like I love like all aspects of our business. At the end of the day, product design and development is, what keeps me ticking, what gets me up every day, what gets me into the Ozpig lovers group and on Facebook, and seeing what everyone's doing and how we can deliver that for our customers. That different styles of cooking that are out there. There's so much more that there is to be done for us as a brand yet, and new exciting products that we've been playing with for a while. And that's the biggest thing I like to tell anyone that follows us. Just because nothing's coming out doesn't mean there's nothing in the pipeline. quite a while if you do them properly to get to market. Like I said, we worked on the Big Pig, start 5 years ago before it was launched. We really got into it, 3 years before it was launched, and really went, right, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And and it just takes that time. You need to build them, you need to break them, You need to find out the weak points and how you can add, more value into the product and deliver more. And you can't do that straight away.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen.
Makes perfect sense.
Talking about breaking them, I reckon I heard on the rumour mill somewhere you like throw them off cliffs and run them over with cars, or you do some pretty hefty damage control.
How far do you go?
We've had some fun with them. We've had some fun. And then, I'm not gonna lie to say that they're bulletproof or anything. Like any product, there's a weak point. And, we have a chimney, and a chimney can only be so thick in diameter. Otherwise, it sucks up too much heat. You don't get draw. So that's always your weak point. If you drop it on the wrong angle, there's the chimney. But if you drop it on the front end of the big, doesn't matter how you drop that thing, you're not going to hurt it at the end of the day.
You know that from experience.
The torture test that we've put them through to glowing red hot, and then trying buckets of water over them to quench them straight away to see if they buckle, where the fault is, and
they
stand on all 4 feet fine. So, and then torture is time. 15 years, and the original ones are still kicking around Australia. Like any product, if you look after it, if it's built well, it'll last. But you stick it out in the paddock and let the rain and salt air and the doubts get to it and not look after it, it's only going to last so long. But, the people that take care with our products, they just keep going because they are made of the more basic products, and we have that care and maintenance instructions through love scripts and all that, how you can bring them back to raw metal, paint them back up so you can get them looking brand new if you want to, even if they're 10 years old. Or if you've got barbecue plates, we only use raw metal or enamel so that it can cope with the heat. Anything with Teflon or anything like that, the high heat of the pig would just destroy it way too quickly. With raw metal, you can always, grind it, sand it back to raw metal, and then come back and throw a seasoning layer, just like you do with cast iron, and bring it up to brand new spec time and time again. So that's like sort of our core basics, making sure it's going to last.
So how do people care for it? Obviously, if you just, like you said, if you do stick it in a paddock and it's out in the rain, it's going to last as long as it can put up with the weather. But obviously storing it under cover, et cetera, when you use it, I'm assuming over time the surfaces, you're going to get surface rust and that type of thing. Like, is there a key thing you tell people to do? Like, obviously you're not going to oil the actual Ozpig because it's all going to burn off. The cooking plates you do, but
no, even the pig itself.
Okay.
So you don't go overhanded. So once you've finished with it of an evening and it's holding temperature, so the fire's gone out and it's hot coals in it, it's just warm enough to touch, not so you're going to burn yourself. You'll get like a can of canola spray oil and just spray a paper towel. Don't go directly on fire so you don't want flame and stuff. So on the paper towel, nice and safe, and just rub the surface. So you just get a little bit of light coating.
Yeah.
And that's just going to soak in like a seasoning layer. If you do that every time, like, you'll have a look at Brad Lum's pig on the Ozpig Lovers group. He doesn't repair his, and his pig looks brand new. It's just because he uses it regularly, so once a week or a couple times a week, and every time when he's finished with it, he oils it. So that the more often you use it, the better it's going to last. Basically, if you pack it up and sit it in the corner and not use it for 6 to 12 months, that's when air and oxidization can get to the material. And that's when you can start having larger corrosion and all of that sort of stuff. So it's funny enough, the more you use it, the longer it lasts.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Good advice. I think that's been a really good chat. What about Ozpig's future? I think you touched on it a bit. You said there's things in the pipeline. No secrets you can let out of the bag?
Not really just yet. We don't like to really say too much until we know that it's coming.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are working on it. Like I said, we really looked inwards again in the last 12 months to really focus on, who we are and what we are as a brand. And it's all around fire, the flavour that comes from fire, sitting around the fire, and, that lifestyle of just sharing and talking beer and wine and whatever else goes with it. And the stories that come with it. So, we're really focusing on that and products that can, enhance people's lifestyle of enjoying the outdoors for longer, basically, and not going inside when it's winter and adding some flavour into your cooking.
That's great.
So before we wrap it up, Anthony, do you have one of your own personal favourite memories of the Ozpig?
There's a lot of special memories, I think. Being a family business, and mum and dad are no longer with us, so there's some special times of us travelling, doing trade shows and all of that sort of stuff. And the Gympie Muster for sure is something for us that we hold very close to us. And I take my family, my kids up there now, and all our close friends, and we go and do that every year when it's on.
Yeah.
Get rid of this COVID, faster the better.
Yeah.
So muster for us has a lot of special memories, and that's where we first ever launched the product, and that's our birthday every year, and we spend a week celebrating, having a good time with good family and friends.
That's awesome.
Such an awesome story, family story from the start right through to now.
For sure. Yeah. Congratulations, Anthony, for the last 15 years. It's a massive achievement, especially this day and age. So thanks so much for joining us and sharing a bit of your life with us here too.
Yeah, thanks so much. It was awesome.
Yeah,
viewers are going to love it.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, and thanks to all you folks out there listening in on the Snowy's Camping Show podcast. As mentioned at the beginning, if you haven't subscribed, please make sure you do that so you don't miss another episode. Jump into the Facebook group. Let us know what you thought of our interview with Anthony today. If you've got any questions for him as well, chuck them in there. I'm sure we can handball them down the line, or also jump into the Ozpig Lovers Facebook group as well.
Yeah.
Thanks again for joining us, folks. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys. See ya.